Before we begin, please note, this story is intended for informational and educational purposes. Some scenes have been dramatized for storytelling clarity. It was 2 a.m. when Trooper Calder pulled onto the shoulder of Route 61. A silver sedan sat there, its engine still running. The driver's door hung open. Headlights sliced through fog, catching only mist and trees. Inside the car, a purse, a phone, a half-empty bottle of water. Everything looked ordinary. Except for one thing, there was no driver. A pause. The sound of a police radio click. Dispatch, I've got an abandoned vehicle. Engine on. No occupant. And just like that, a quiet stretch of Pennsylvania highway became the center of one of the strangest disappearances the state would ever see. Mara Ellison was 32, an analyst, engaged, meticulous about everything she did. She left her reading office just after 8 that night for the drive home to Sunbury, a route she knew well. Her last text, sent at 9:02 p.m., read, heading through Pottsville. I'll call when I get home, Red Heart. She never made that call. Hours later, her car was discovered still idling on the shoulder near Schuylkill Haven. Locals muttered that Route 61 had taken another one, because 10 years earlier, another driver had vanished within 10 miles of the same place. That case was never solved. Forensic reconstruction placed Mara's stop at about 9:10 p.m. Tire marks showed a sudden swerve. Enough to pull over, not enough to crash. Investigators wondered if she'd stopped for an animal or for someone. A freight truck's dash cam caught a shadowy pickup easing out of a gravel lot moments later. Headlights off. Investigators slowed the footage frame by frame. A dark shape, heavy body style, no plate lights. A lead. Detective Rina, Lowe, joined the task force 2 days later. Lowe recorded interview. At first it looked random, some drifter, but that truck's timing lined up too perfectly. It moved less than 90 seconds after Mara pulled over. By dawn, Mara's fiancé had filed a missing person report. Search teams fanned out. Helicopters, K-9 units, divers. They found nothing until the 5th day, when a cadaver dog hit near a drainage culvert north of the rest stop. The soil was freshly turned, shovel marks clear, but when they dug, the hole was empty. Low. It was like someone had beaten us there. We could smell diesel, see where a spade had cut and filled again. Whoever buried something had come back for it. The headline the next morning read, "Vanished on Route 61, a grave with nothing inside." 1 week later, hunters stumbled upon a shallow grave 15 miles north. Inside, the remains of a woman wrapped in canvas. Dental records confirmed it was Mara Ellison. The autopsy showed blunt force trauma and traces of sedative. She'd likely been unconscious before death. The burial was clumsy, only 45 minutes of digging at most. Around her wrists, red-dyed cotton fibers, rope from a hardware store. Soon a suspect emerged. Jonas Creel, a 45-year-old drifter with priors for assault. He owned a red pickup that matched the one from the dash cam. Security footage caught him buying rope and canvas the day before Mara vanished. Under interrogation, Creel confessed. He said Mara offered him a ride. They argued, and things went too far. He claimed he buried her alone, once. Case closed. Or so it seemed. 2 years later, the Route 61 file landed on a cold case analyst's desk. An intern comparing soil samples noticed something odd. Pollen grains from hemlock and river birch. Species that didn't grow anywhere near the hunter's site, but did thrive near that first empty culvert. If Mara's body carried pollen from the culvert area, she must have been buried there first, which meant Jonas Creel's story couldn't be entirely true. Investigators reopened the case. When they resurveyed the culvert zone, a ground-penetrating radar sweep flagged a dense patch of disturbed soil. Digging down, they found stones, silt, then fragments of bone, and a woman's jacket that didn't belong to Mara Ellison. Detective Lowe remembered the shock. That was the moment we knew there was another person involved, maybe another victim. The news broke fast. Second grave on Route 61. Did police bury the truth twice? A retired trucker, Walt Hensley, came forward after seeing the coverage. He told investigators he'd seen a man and a woman walking near the barrier that night. The man supporting her, the woman limping. Hensley's statement, "I figure it was a couple fighting, but she wasn't the lady on the news. Different hair, different jacket. No such woman had been reported missing. If she existed, Who was she? And why was she there? When detectives re-examined Creel's confession, its cracks widened. He said he buried Mara once. He insisted he was alone. He couldn't pinpoint the location. So they confronted him again in prison. Detective, Jonas, the soil on Mara's clothes doesn't match your site. Creel, I did what I said. Buried her once. Detective, then who moved her? Who's the woman the trucker saw? Creel, you already buried that case. Why dig it up again? The silence that followed said everything. He was protecting someone. DNA from hairs found at the second grave didn't match Mara or Creel. It pointed instead to Clara Meyers, 29, missing since 2018 from a neighboring county. She'd once worked at a gas station on Route 61, the same place Creel had picked up odd jobs. Clara had vanished a year before Mara. Now her DNA was mixed with Mara's remains. Narrator. It looked like the highway had claimed two victims, and that one of them might have helped bury the other. Forensic reconstruction showed layers of lime and rock, two skeletons interlaced. Whoever dug that second grave had deliberately merged them. Public outrage surged. Talk shows speculated that Clara had helped Creel move Mara's body and been silenced for it. The question hung in every broadcast. Was Clara the woman the witness saw walking with Creel? And if so, what happened to her after that night? Detectives kept digging. Phone tower data linked a prepaid cell once used by Clara's roommate to both burial zones, and to Creel's truck Bluetooth system days apart. That meant she was alive during the first burial, and probably the move. In 2022, a prison informant told investigators that Creel used to brag about the girl who helped me dig. He even described a moth tattoo on her right wrist. Photographs of Clara's body confirmed the same tattoo. Detectives put the drawing on the table in front of Creel. Lowe, she helped you, didn't she? Creel, you think I killed her? She was already dead when I found her. Lowe, then who walked with you that night? Creel, not Clara. Someone else. Someone who wanted Mara gone. The investigation, once thought solved, had just opened again, this time into conspiracy. Jonas Creel's last words opened a new chapter. If the woman seen walking with him wasn't Clara Meyers, then who was she? And if he hadn't moved Mara Ellison's body alone, who had helped him bury her? Twice. Investigators combed back through every name in the file. Anyone connected to the burial sites, the highway maintenance logs, or the contaminated soil permits that Mara had been auditing before her death. That's when a signature surfaced. Lydia Quillen, a soil reclamation consultant hired by the county. She'd signed environmental reports for the very parcel of land where the first empty grave was discovered. At the time of Mara's disappearance, Lydia had been working on a roadside cleanup just a mile away. Detective Rina Lowe, archival interview. She knew how to move earth. She knew how to disguise disturbed soil. The coincidence was too big to ignore. Phone records soon confirmed it. 12 calls between Lydia Quillen and Jonas Creel in the months before the murder. 2 of those calls took place within an hour of Mara's last text message. When agents visited Lydia's cabin in rural Carbon County, she opened the door calmly. The hemlock trees outside matched the pollen on Mara's clothes. Body cam audio captured her words as they led her away. "You'll never find the whole story out there," she said softly. "Half of it's already gone." Inside the interview room, Lydia spoke quietly, her voice steady but tired. Lydia recorded. Jonas didn't lure her. He was hired to scare her. Someone wanted Mara to back off that zoning report. The contamination data she'd found wasn't supposed to exist. I only knew Jonas through Clara. Clara thought she could keep him calm. Detectives pressed for a name. Who hired him? Lydia shook her head. No names, just envelopes. But after Mara died, Jonas panicked. Clara said we had to move the body. She thought we could hide it better, but the ground gave way, she fell. Jonas lost it. She paused for a long time. We buried them together. I didn't mean for any of it to happen. Lydia insisted she hadn't killed either woman, only helped cover up 2 accidental deaths. But investigators weren't satisfied. She had motive, knowledge, and ties to the same county department whose soil tests Mara had been auditing. Detectives began to follow the money. The zoning report Mara had been working on came from a contractor called Haven Ridge Holdings, a shell company linked to local councilman Richard Vale. Vale had championed several lucrative land deals, all approved by Lydia Quillen's office. On Mara's recovered laptop, A draft email sat in her outbox, unsent. A whistleblower complaint addressed to the Department of Environmental Protection. Attached were soil test results showing illegal dumping along Route 61. She'd never had the chance to send it. The deeper detectives dug, the clearer it became. Mara Ellison hadn't just met the wrong man. She'd uncovered the wrong truth. Forensic teams pieced together the likely sequence. Mara discovered evidence of falsified environmental reports and confronted Jonas Creel, whom she recognized from one of Lydia's cleanup sites. He struck her during an argument. She fell, unconscious. Lydia arrived soon after, trying to control the situation. They buried Mara near the culvert. Days later, Clara Meyers, Jonas's ex and Lydia's friend, insisted the burial was too close to the road. She demanded they move the body. During that grim task, the ground collapsed and Clara was killed. Jonas, panicked, buried both women together and drove away. Lydia, terrified, forged the cleanup paperwork to hide the site. Detective Lowe, press briefing. 2 women, 1 grave. 2 accidents layered into a crime of silence. That's what Route 61 really held. When confronted with Lydia's testimony, Jonas Creel finally broke. He admitted the fight, the panic, the reburial, and something else. He led investigators to a rusted storage container in the woods. Inside was Mara's missing laptop bag and printed soil reports, stamped with the county seal and Councilman Vale's signature. The chain of evidence was complete. Within weeks, the district attorney filed charges. Jonas Creel, 2 counts of manslaughter, evidence tampering, and obstruction. Lydia Quillen, conspiracy to conceal homicide, destruction of records. Councilman Richard Vale, fraud, corruption, and accessory after the fact. When the indictments went public, crowds gathered outside Vale's office. Homemade signs read "Justice for Mara and Clara." A reporter's voice crackled over evening news footage. Tonight, the Route 61 case, once considered solved, has exposed a network of political cover-ups stretching from county hall to state contracts. The courtroom scenes felt like a movie. Prosecutors projected 2 photographs side by side, the first grave and the second. "Ladies and gentlemen," the attorney said, "these women were buried twice, once by violence and once by bureaucracy." The jury deliberated less than a day. Lydia Quillen and Councilman Vale were convicted on all counts. Jonas Creel accepted a plea deal for 30 years in exchange for testimony. Months later, on a cold March morning, the people of Sunbury gathered at the Route 61 overlook. 2 white crosses stood there, overlooking the valley. Eli Price, Mara's fiancé, spoke to the small crowd. "They tried to erase her," he said quietly. "But now the road tells her story every day." Detective Rina Lowe stood a few yards back, watching the flowers tremble in the wind. For her, the case had closed, but the sound of that first empty grave would always stay. Lowe, interview clip, "We thought we were chasing a monster in the dark, but what we uncovered was an entire system trying to keep the truth underground." Mara and Clara forced it back into the light. Route 61 still winds through those same hills. Drivers still slow near mile marker 147, where the fog clings low and the road hums under their tires. They may not know the story, how 2 women were lost there, how a town's secret was almost buried with them. But the flowers by the guardrail tell enough. Because in the end, the earth doesn't keep secrets forever. And the truth, no matter how deep you dig it, always finds its way back to the surface. All visuals and audio elements are used under fair use for commentary and analysis. This story is shared to inform, not to sensationalize. Kindly subscribe to Mystery Arena for more intriguing stories. Here truth isn't hidden, it's uncovered. See you in the next story.